Hi everyone, it's Suzanne Tucker with Generation Mindful. And this week is Feelings Friday number 13, and we have an awesome mantra we're going to be pulling in for our families. And it goes, I share my ideas and my feelings. And we're pulling it in for our families and we're pulling it in for ourselves. So we're going to be starting with just pulling this in to our bodies and helping it live for us. Then we're going to break it down, what it means, what it doesn't mean, and then we're going to help it live in our lives practically. I share my ideas and my feelings. That's what Blue Dolphin has to say. Blue represents this area of the body, the blue chakra or the fifth chakra, and that has to do with communication, peace, feelings, all that good stuff. So today what we're going to do to just break it down is start by breathing in through our nose, out through our nose, breathing in, I share, breathing out my ideas and my feelings. Breathing in, I share, breathing out my ideas and my feelings. And this time, the next time you breathe, I want you to actually feel right at the low part of your rib cage is your diaphragm. And when you breathe in, I want you to imagine that diaphragm muscle dropping and letting your lungs fill in. And then when you breathe out, imagine it rising up and pushing those ribs into a smaller area, those lungs, and letting that air push out of you. Okay, so if you want, you can cup your hands like this, breathing in, dropping the diaphragm, filling up your lungs with air, I share, and then breathing out, pushing all that air out, my ideas and my feelings. Looking at the connection between our breath, our diaphragm, and up here. And the reason we're doing that is I find that when you share your ideas and your feelings, or your kids do, a lot of times we just stop breathing. Have you ever noticed that? When you get into a big feeling, sometimes the first thing I do, I notice, is I hold my breath. So with this one, just talking about sharing our ideas and our feelings, sometimes that can make us nervous or want to hold our breath. So what it's not, or breaking it down. I thought I'd share a story about when I was little. So I remember being 5 and going on a sleepover with a friend, and we went to Lake of the Ozarks. So it was probably the furthest I'd been from home by myself without my parents. And I was with this big family. They had, I'm one of 7, they had 6 kids. So there were a lot of kids, a lot going on. I remember at bedtime, I was crying. It was dark. I was in my little, I think it was bunk beds, and I was crying. And somehow the dad found out. I don't know if the kids got him or what, but he came in the room and he came over and he said very calmly, and he didn't say, stop crying, you're being a baby, or, I'll give you something to cry about, none of those. But what he did say was, when I was in the Army and there was a man who would be homesick, we would stuff socks in his mouth. Very calmly said this story. Oh, so I remember being little. I remember having very big feelings and being very small. And I remember the fear, right, that this response, this very calm response to my emotion evoked in me. And I don't know if I stifled it or, those emotions or what happened. I can't remember the rest. But I do remember his response. And so what I want to break down is this: I share my ideas and my feelings. It looks really good on the surface. Every adult would say, oh yeah, I share my ideas and my feelings. That's something I want my kid to internalize or to know. But the reality is, do we really? When push comes to shove, how are we responding to our kids' feelings? So I'm going to give you an example. This week I was told, not only that I am not a good mom, I'm going to quote exactly, you suck at being a mom. Those are the exact words. You suck at being a mom. Okay? So push comes to shove, how are you going to respond? Are you a home that makes it safe for people to share their ideas and their feelings? Right? So I was challenged, and I can tell you where I was challenged was just how I felt on the inside. But I can tell you what I did. My practice was to breathe, to allow, to move, to give that person space. Thankfully, they went up to their own room because they were very, very emotional and very sad and angry. But did I march up after this child and then have words and say, you don't say that and you don't disrespect me? No. Why? Because I value self-expression, even when I'm on the other end, the receiving end. And what I know is kids say big things when they feel big things, and it's okay. Sometimes we say something in the heat of the moment that we don't exactly mean. We want to hurt the other person, or we want to relay our very big dissatisfaction that we're not getting our way, or we don't like the choice the other person made. But in a household that values ideas and feelings, it can be safe to even say those things. Now, some of you might be saying, well, that is awfully disrespectful. For me, it's relationships. Have you ever been in an argument with another adult? Yes. Have you ever said something out of your emotion that later you were able to process and break down with them? Probably. And that's exactly what we can do with our kids. So when we revisit it, when we're both in our thinking brains, and we did it when we were in the car and we were in a really great space, it was the very next day, I said, I've been thinking about those words you said to me yesterday, and I want to know if there's anything else you want to share with me underneath it. And the answer was no, I was just really, really mad that you weren't doing what I wanted, right? And then we got to talk about that, and it was awesome, and that brings us closer. So the other example I wanted to give was a client this week whose little one said, I wish my baby brother was never born. And she was like, how do I let her know how this makes me feel and how that's going to feel for him? And I thought, let's just take a breath, let it sit. And then later, when you do your time in and you're talking about it, don't talk about you said you don't want baby brother born. Talk about the big feelings underneath, right? About having to share attention or whatever's going on for your little one. And just take those words to be the message, the delivery of the feeling that lives underneath. All right? So this week I share my ideas and my feelings. The way we're going to do this practically in our lives is just by allowing for the big feelings, breathing into them, understanding that if we are a positive home, right? Positive parenting, positive redirection. It doesn't mean that all the feelings we feel are positive, all right? All emotions are sacred, and mistakes help us learn and grow. So this week, embracing the ideas and the feelings. I'm doing it with you. I'm so glad you're on this journey with me. I hope this sharing of my story helps you, and I'd love to hear your stories below. If you've ever had a little one say something that maybe isn't the easiest thing in the world to hear, I'd love to hear it, that I'm not alone. Thanks all. Have a great week.